Okay. Hello. How was everyone?
Hello.
Hi.
I'm finishing my lunch. Sorry.
Okay. Welcome to our first open source meeting of the year. And yeah, so this is something we do every summer in our organization. We will have this meeting series from about May to about September or October. And this is an opportunity for people to work on open source projects and learn something about open source, the world of open source and project management, things like that. So we're we always have a good time. Every summer we try to accomplish maybe things that we proposed in our Google Summer Code projects, and maybe we didn't get accepted, but you still have an opportunity to do some things and interact with people. And then, of course, we learn a lot of things. Jesse has been contributing a lot of materials for project management and a lot of things from his Jopur organization. Morgan works in the San Francisco tech scene in the Frontier Tower, which is a building there where it's like an incubator. And I've worked, of course, with a lot of open source organizations in my time, so we have a lot of expertise in this area. So I guess we could go around and introduce ourselves to start off with.
Sorry.
Okay.
Was
So,
that really noisy? I'm sorry.
oh yeah,
It's just.
yeah.
I guess I'll go first since I'm here. Hi, I'm Jess. I've been with. I originally came in to Orthogonal Lab like 2019.
Yeah.
I think it was the summer of 2019 through Google Summer of Code. Like some individuals, I was in this situation where I did not get funded through Google, but I stayed in what has now become the open source summer cohort. I stayed with the program. I went through things. I learned a lot, had a good experience. We had an interesting project with Stefan. I know this because I'm updating a lot of the old Google Summer of Code history website stuff, but like Stefan and like cybernetics, and I forgot like great vehicles for developmental neurostimulation stuff, like way 5, 6, 7 years ago. So that I've been in the lab since then. I've versed a couple of things like Cognition Futures and Society Ethics Tech Group, and then eventually JoPro, which is sort of my own organization where I'm doing similar things. And it's a great community, and I think Bradley's an excellent leader of the program and really gives people room to grow in it. So please ask questions. And if there's things that you'd like to see us talk about in like open source or project development, I also do a lot in terms of like pitching and startup stuff. I was part of the UC Launch Accelerator program this year. So if you're in the process of like developing your idea into things later and down the road, you have resources here to talk about that. Bradley's got a lot of experience in open source and education. Morgan has a lot with startup and neurotech X stuff. I'll let him talk about that. But yeah, great to see everybody, and please reach out and ask a bunch of questions. Oh, there's 2 Morgans now. Great. Hi, Morgan.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. That's great. So it looks like Kewen is here. Chris Chen, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. I'm actually like this year's GSoC. I have applied for this year's GSoC, but unfortunately I didn't got in. So I'm really interested in the open source the project. So that's why I'm here. And currently I'm an EU student, and I also study in Georgia Tech for the online Master of Computer Science program. So actually I'm doing both of them right now. And this summer I really want to do some really interesting and helpful projects. And I think AI agents is a great way to start, great direction to start. And yeah, that's my goal and purpose here.
Yeah, we've done a lot of work in the group on agents and agent-based models. So, I mean, one of the projects, of course, was large language models, but we have
Yes.
other interests in that area. We've done, for example, with the open source sustainability project, we're doing a lot of reinforcement learning. With our other agents, we do other sorts of computational agents that are embodied. So there's a lot there that we could draw from in that area.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Yeah. Looks like Ashu is here. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello everyone. Am I audible?
Hi. Yes.
Yeah, so my name is Ashu Rajput. This year I had applied to DevoWorm, but unfortunately my proposal didn't get selected. So I just wanted to join the meeting and see what others are here to present.
Okay. What kind of things are you interested in?
Sorry, can you please repeat?
What kinds of things are you interested in? What kinds of areas of
I just
research?
want to know what the meeting is about. Like, what are the type of labs and open source?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. We'll talk about that later. So.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Looks like Barshan is here.
Hello everyone.
Hi.
Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. So yeah, so since it's the first open source meeting, I'll be introducing myself. So this summer I'll be joining as a GSoC scholar for the DevoWorm group, and so I've been working on using attention, and I'm planning to incorporate it into the graph neural networks, which is already present, like hypergraphs and the graphs we have been working on. So that's what I'll be working on this summer. And other than that, I'm also interested in the other open source projects that are going on in the group, and also the recent developments, like as just said about startups, and I am really interested in those informations as well. So I'm looking forward to this summer.
Yeah. Thank you.
And contribute.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. We have Kavya.
Hi, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm Kavya Zala. I'm a second year undergrad from VCTI, computer science undergrad. So I came across OREL and DevoWorm through open source contributions. First, I actually contributed to DevoWorm, and then my interest grew more to the OREL part, where like the agent-based modeling. I had previously worked with the Mesa org. So yeah, my interest grew much more, and currently I'm working more towards computational neuroscience and getting to know more about that field.
Yeah, we do talk a lot about computational neuroscience. Well, you've been in our Saturday meetings. That's where we usually do a lot of that. We also talk about it in our DevoWorm meetings. So this is just, kind of the way they kind of intersect. Okay, yeah, okay, yeah. So Utkarsh is here. So yeah, I don't know if you can introduce yourself if you have bandwidth for that.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Utkarsh Tyagi. I'm from India. I'm a second year undergrad. I applied from GSoC to DevoWorm. I have interest in graph neural networks specifically. I plan to involve that with the developmental biology to build some personal work. Yeah, I'll be happy to work through this summer with you.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Yeah, so we do a lot of. Well, actually, we've from our application period, we have a number of forks on our DevoWorm repository now, and so that's nice that we have that kind of work. So we'll be kind of incorporating that and maybe into some of the things that we're doing. Maybe we can get some sort of project off the ground in that area, and sustain it, because that's how kind of the GSoC projects originated, is from that sort of process. Someone express interest in something, and we just build from there. So, okay, Shreyas is here. Hi, Shreyas.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Shreyas. I'm currently in third year undergraduate at IIT Madras in India. So yeah, I also did apply for GSoC from DevoWorm organization. So my idea was basically to not only develop the connectome develop. So yeah, my idea was to apply that in hyperbolic space, as that was a mathematically fit space for representing the connectome as it's a tree-like structure. So yeah, that was basically my idea, and yeah, I would like to work upon it, and looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I couldn't get in GSoC, but yeah.
Yeah. So that's good. Yeah. Again, we're interested in the connectome pretty broadly across both meeting groups, and we've actually worked on a number of ways to characterize that in agents and in other structures. So originally we started using something like SimBrain, which is a simulation platform for, I guess, for like neural networks and things like that. And of course, I know Utkarsh has been working on some simulations in C302 and in Cindy, and there are all sorts of platforms like that. Some people in our DevoWorm group are interested in like CompuCell 3D, which is another package. So there are all these software packages, and they all do different things. And so one of the things, is to sort of push the boundaries of some of these packages and see what they can do and see what we can incorporate from them. Writing your own software is nice, but like getting something to work in another package is often very powerful too. So, yeah. All right. So that's Shreyas, Barshan, Kewen, Kavya, Ashu, and then we get to Morgan. So Morgan, hi.
Yeah, hi there. My name's Morgan. I work here in San Francisco. I do psychiatric neuroimaging, and I got really involved in the open source by contributing to Fedora. So packaging for Fedora and a lot of neuroimaging software that we use, academically, but it's also taught me a lot about the trials and tribulations of of working in open source.
Yeah. It's always a challenge. Like a lot of people, if they start off in open source, they start off contributing to a specific organization, and then they build from there. So sometimes you can make quite a career out of it. I mean, sometimes people will join, like we've had people join our cohort in the summer, and people have gone on to all sorts of different organizations and activities and jobs. And it's really a nice opportunity.
I've also found it to be a wonderful source of community.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah. It's always the community is always they always stress the community aspect of it when they build an open source organization. Not least of which because they need to have new people coming in, but also because it's. I mean, the principle of open source is that it's the users that are building things, or the people who are invested in it are building things. So it's just having that community of people who can constantly be there, sort of resident observers of the thing that's being built, and then build upon that. That's always good. Right. So yeah, we'll talk about all different aspects of open source and project development and project management over the course of the summer. But I did want to go over some. Okay, Jesse.
Oh, well, you might have been about to say this, so I was going to just give a general remark about selections and who was selected and so on.
Okay.
But just in the sense of like, because if you didn't get the Google Summer of Code funding properly, please, I know you hear this often, but like, this is not a reflection on the quality of your submission or your work or who you are as a person. This year, the funding is always inconsistent. And I don't know if you want to say anything about that, Bradley. But it's we don't often get the same number of things every year, and this year in particular is quite crazy because there's so many things going on. Everybody's applying, and the different pressures and fundings were happening. So just don't take it as some loss or setback on your part that you didn't get it, because there was very, I would say, less than usual. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, we had 3 projects that we wanted to get people for, and we got 1 person in 1 project, which is pretty awful. I mean, it's like there's a lot of work that goes into it.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. And in the past years, it's been different. Some has been like 3, 4, 5 different things. And this year it was 1 project and 1 person. So just keep it. We appreciate you showing up here. We want to offer you the whole, like, you basically can do exactly the same thing, just without some of the, you won't get the funding, which is a big thing, but you will get the same general experience and a little bit less pressure, because you're not going to have to submit a big pile of working code there either. But we hold you to the same, kind of general standards. So I think I strongly encourage, for anybody who's wondering, oh, should I actually do this or not? If you can, I highly encourage you to do it, because, I did. I was in the exact same spot, and it worked out very well for me. So we can talk about the whole process if that's ever something on your mind. But I just wanted to say that before we launch into formal stuff.
Yeah, and so I think it's important to think about this group as kind of like this is a place where you can work on things, test things out. There's no real pressure to produce anything, and it's something that if you want to work on something totally different from what you maybe proposed for GSoC, that's fine. If you want to present on something, if you want to follow up on something that you think is interesting but isn't like in the as productive as you would otherwise would be acceptable for something like GSoC, that's fine too. It's just an educational experience and gives you some maybe something for the future in terms of your resume or whatever you're looking for there.
I would add on to that as a third party outsider for young folks who are kind of getting used to all this stuff. Finding a group of people that are experienced and actually care about your development to the degree that this group will is rare. Like, you will be able to ask us a bunch of questions. So I would lean into it. I would because this is like free mentoring and resources and all this stuff. So I would really lean into it and dare to say things and ask the dumb questions and present your stuff and not think it's perfect and get feedback, because that's actually incredibly valuable to your overall development. And not a lot of people are gonna there's no one really can come in and say, oh, you should really do this, blah 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 blah. But I'll be that person here where almost as a third party outsider, you should really try to maximize that here, and that this is not only can you do that, but I think it's an incredibly constructive environment. And Bradley and I have talked quite a bit about that over the years, and Morgan too, and a lot of the senior folks here. I don't know if Vidi or Sarah or Mehu will be here today, but a lot of the seniors, the senior contributors and mentors who are here or in the lab or in the Slack, are very great resources, and hoping to hear from you if you have questions.
Yeah. So Mehul is his expertise is in graph neural networks, and he was a GSoC student in I think 2023 when he did some work in that area, and then he he actually, I think, wasn't he also Oral GSoC student? Or no, it wasn't him. Never mind. But yeah, and then of course he was around last year to kind of talk to people. And I know there's kind of a pipeline with a few institutions in India where we get people from the same institutions, and there's support amongst some of the former people who have been in the org. So it's you're getting that kind of, oh yeah, go to this org or whatever, and and it's nice to have people who have been through this before you can draw on. And so, yeah, I mean, Mahul will be around. He's got some experience with working on the graph neural networks, and he has sort of that legacy knowledge. Sarah, of course, it was the person who sort of first did the first project on open source sustainability in large language models. So she developed that part of the project, and she sort of, built that sort of tool chain. And so, the project this year was an attempt to sort of revitalize that, move that forward. We didn't get any students for that through GSoC, so that's something that actually attracted a lot of open source activity during the application period. So, thank you to everyone who contributed to that as a contributor. But we'll see where we can go with that over the course of this summer. And then VD Rohira worked on the open source sustainability project on what was called the Greenfield project, which was sort of the reinforcement learning approach to open source sustainability. So that's a different take on it. Instead of sort of using large language models to craft issues and other things, you're using reinforcement learning to sort of shape the behavior of the contributor agents. So if you're familiar with open source sustainability project, it's basically a simulation of open source activity where you have contributors that are agents. Yeah, and those contributors could be maintainers, they could be just regular contributors, and they have to work in teams. And those teams have to be coordinated. And the large language models are used to sort of create issues and to structure, responses to those issues and other things like that. But with reinforcement learning, what you're trying to do is trying to see which kinds of behaviors give the best reward, or the policies that give the best reward in terms of behaviors in those communities. And then you're rewarding that and you're getting some optimal outcome. So it's a different way of like going about the open source sustainability project. Now I know that Kavya has contributed to the MISA project, so that's sort of another part of this where we have the agent-based model on top of that. So you're actually modeling it as an agent-based model, and that's something that is also something we'd like to maybe drive forward a little bit more this summer, is this sort of agent-based aspect of this. So there are all sorts of opportunities to pick something that can help with those projects. And then, of course, you have your own, as an open source project, you kind of have your own thing that you can put in your portfolio and say, this is something that I've done in a community of people. So that's kind of where we are with the leader, people who might be able to help you over the summer and give you some guidance because they've been there before. So that's that. They're not here today, but they'll be around. And if you go to our Slack channel on the Orthogonal Research and Education Lab Slack, we usually have our discussions in the GSoC channel. And you'll see that when you join or when you maybe get invited to that channel channel is something that is sort of another way to communicate in this community, is to maybe post questions there or to seek out, like VD or SAR or Mahul if you have a question. Okay. So did anyone else want to go before I gave a little introduction to our lab? Okay, Barshan?
I wanted to ask that we are not restricted to attending any of the meetings, right? Like tomorrow we have the orthogonal lab meeting.
Oh.
So can I as well?
Yeah. So anyone can attend any of these meetings. There's this meeting, the open source meeting. There's the Saturday meeting, which happens on Saturdays at it's 10 o'clock Eastern time in the morning. It's at the same link. And then there's the DevoWorm group, which meets Monday at 10 a.m. Eastern at a different link. It's the Meet Jitsi DevoWorm. So that's, if you're in the DevoWorm Slack, you know what that link is, or you have access to it. If not, let me know and I can provide you with the link. Barshan, did you have something?
No, I misclicked my
Okay.
bad. Sorry.
Yeah. On a kind of related note, it's not quite that like Joe Pro events and Orthogonal Lab or DevoWorm are sort of MIT and Harvard where you get to just cross register all the time, but it kind of is, But point being, there's a bunch of like I'm mostly based in JarPro. That's my organization, and we have other programs and events that are somewhat adjacent. Like the most relevant one to this group would be Data and Direction, which is sort of a data ethics responsible AI group. I'm finishing interviews for that now, so what I don't know that a lot of folks are going to be able to be at this meeting, but sometimes in the past, I don't know if it fully happened last year, but there may be some folks that pass through on certain days just because of the overlap of like professional development or talking about open source, talking about dealing with software, dealing with data. There's some natural overlap here. So there might be some folks that come in here some of the meetings from that group. And if people are interested in data and direction stuff, and we have similar type groups and discussions, you're welcome to join that too. But yeah, I would encourage folks to come to the Saturday meeting here. And if you're interested or you're doing DevoWorm related things, please go to the Monday meetings for DevoWorm and then the Saturday meetings for Orthogonal, and then obviously these meetings. You're welcome to all of those for sure.
Yeah. So thank you. And then so Jesse has this organization JoPro, which is kind of has different things going on, but you can, if you're interested, let him know and he can guide you there. All right, so I wanted to go over some materials. This is kind of an orientation to our group and like all the kind of resources we have on the web. So the first thing is our Orthogonal Lab website. This is the Orthogonal Research and Education Lab website. This is orthogonal research at weebly.com. So we have a lab introduction, which, we have these resources on the web. They kind of grow out of date, but I think they give you a good sense of what's going on in the group. And so, basically we have a lab introduction. We have people in collaborations. So we have a lot of different sort of interest groups where we're doing things, all sorts of different things. So we have the simulating biology cluster. We have DevoWorm, of course, which is, of course, our meetings on Mondays. We have links to the OpenWorm Foundation, which I'll talk about in a little bit, which is sort of the original sponsor of DevoWorm. We do this sort of area of neuro AI, which is our agents work and our sort of tentacles into cognitive science. So we've, at least in the past, have been very interested in issues in cognitive science. And so we've kind of combined agent-based modeling or agentive modeling and cognitive science under the guise of neuro AI. So there's a lot of stuff going on there that I probably won't get into a lot here, and we didn't have any GSoC projects on it this summer, but are nevertheless something that you can become involved in. We also do a lot of things with open science and open source. So we, of course, have our open source sustainability project, and we also have other types of project. We have open source sort of releases that we've created, and we have other topics in open science that are interesting. So open science is different from open source in that open science is thinking about ways to make science more accessible and transparent to people. So it's different than open source, but we kind of bring it together in the lab. And I've given a talk on this sort of vision. So I'll show you later some playlists on our YouTube channel that kind of go over some things that we have, the scope of these kind of interest groups, and you'll kind of see what I'm getting at with this. We also do a lot of work with informatics. We're interested in cybernetics, especially like classic cybernetic theory and how to apply it to the modern world. And then, of course, we have our educational component of the lab, which are a lot of these meetings are considered to be sort of the educational component. We have participated in Google Summer of Code for about 10 years now. This is, in fact, the 10th year of our Google Summer of Code participation. And then, it's so that's something that we've been doing for a long time. And I may actually release a video. Yeah. I may actually release a video on this.
I didn't know this was the actual 10-year. I was off by a year, so I'll have to make 10-year anniversary. That's great. That's great.
Yeah, like I said, probably deserves a video or something. And so, yeah, and then we, of course, we've been involved in something called Neuromatch Academy, which is educational opportunity over the summer. It's a summer school that's online for people interested in deep learning and in computational neuroscience. So that's something else that we don't really stress as much anymore, but is, part of our mission is to stress educational opportunities, especially virtual education opportunities. So we have our Slack teams and some Discord servers here, and then we have our outreach. So we have a medium. But anyways, yeah, we have that, and we have some videos for we have as our like an open house that we had like 2 years ago. We have different workshops and peer review activities and GitHub links here, which are sort of point you to different repositories that are of interest. So we have a lot of things in our outreach area. So a word about the medium. This is an opportunity for people maybe to write blog posts about what they're interested in. For our GSoC Scholar, we're going to require maybe 2 blog posts over the course of the semester. I know that that's typically a thing that people do in GSoC is to publish a weekly blog post on their progress. But we also like to cross post those, at least the sort of the middle of the program and the end of the program summary on the Medium so people can see what's going on there. Could you post the link to the Medium in the chat, Jesse, if you can get it to...
Yeah. Yeah, and also like some of their cross posts from there's like a job post Substack.
Yeah.
Substack too.
So yeah, it's
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, so yeah, it's another opportunity to get involved and get your voice out there. I know VD made very good use of this when she was doing her project. I think Sarah did too, where you just are basically able to demonstrate what you've done over the course of your time in the lab and kind of lay things out for people. It's always a good opportunity to gain experience with writing and other things like that. So this is actually the Medium that I was talking about. It's like a blog where we have different authors contributing. So I just posted this on recent talks from the Orel YouTube channel. So our group is has a very large presence on YouTube. A lot of the things we do in terms of talks and educational opportunities are on YouTube, and so you can go back and look at the archives of things, and we can also synthesize those with like transcriptions from large language models, or taking pieces of video out and revisiting them like 2 years down the road when we can't remember what was said or what something was about. So we have a couple of talks here from our YouTube channel from different conferences and things that we've attended in the last couple months. VD posted this last year on Sustain Hub, which was her GSoC final report. Jesse's posted a lot of things on his different musings about project management and some of the things that he's been involved in. So if he visits a conference, he'll create a post, these sorts of things. So that's part of our community as well. Then Orthogonal Research and Education Lab has a GitHub repository, or a GitHub organization, I should say. And so if you've been working on the large language models open source sustainability project, you know of this repository, and you probably know it quite well because this is where we had a lot of activity in the application period. So, but actually we do a lot of things across the Orthogonal Lab. We have all sorts of repositories here that are open source. Some of them have a lot of code in them. Some of them are more educational, but we do have a lot of our work. We tend to be, we tend to at least create an open source repository for it, and then it allows us to sort of accumulate that work. It's another layer of sort of like, sharing, doing collaborative work, doing things that can be version controlled and updated. Okay, so then, I talked about how we have a YouTube presence. So our Orthogonal Research and Education Lab YouTube channel is where a lot of the things that we do in our educational realm live. And so this is a channel called Open Source and GSoC. So we have a lot of different things in our Open Source and GSoC playlist. We have a lot of different videos where you can explore like different talks that we've given on some of these projects. Different conferences have been attended. Different types of topical things like how to write a GSoC proposal, and summaries of different activities and things like that. That's one playlist. Another playlist is this open house playlist. So this is something that I think if you want a good overview of the different things that the lab's been doing over the past, say, 7 or 8 years, this is a good place to go, because I've done a number of talks on different areas of the lab, some of which are accessible and everyone knows about, and some of which nobody knows about really, and I just have to kind of make the point that these things have happened or are available to work on. So there are all sorts of different interest groups and projects that I kind of summarize in this playlist. So, we have our DevoWorm, of course, which has its own YouTube channel, but I give updates here on the state of DevoWorm. The state of open source and GSoC activities, I gave a summary of this in 2022. I'll try to give another summary this year because, some of this is out of date, but it gives you a good idea of some of the things that we do in terms of open source. We have this larger program in developmental AI. It's sort of like a vision that we have for this, a lot of the work that we're doing with agent-based modeling, and even in DevoWorm, some of the things that we're doing there with simulating connectomes fits into this developmental AI program, which is a larger sort of conceptual program and roadmap. And so, yeah, I summarize in some of the educational and community building activities, just thinking about how we approach that in the labs. I think this playlist gives you a good idea of the culture of the lab and a lot of the things we're doing. And then we have affiliate organizations that we're affiliated with. So we're affiliated with OpenWorm, which I'll talk about in a minute. We also have, we're also involved in the Active Inference Institute. I'm a scientific advisor for the Active Inference Institute, and we participate in their symposium every year. And so this is our channel for the Active Symposium. So one of the things about the Active Inference Institute is that it is one of these distributed collaborative institutions. They do everything online. They host a number of online events. They're very similar to what we do. But they offer opportunities for cross-pollination with our organization in a number of areas. So one of those is this interest in open science and open source. Another one is this interest in computational approaches to cognition and neuroscience. And sort of a third area is this idea of, kind of, they do a bit of work on project management and they do, they're interested in that aspect of uh, dealing with large projects and human collaboration, but from sort of a cognitive view, or sort of, in their case, an active inference viewpoint. So we kind of interact on those three levels. So this playlist shows a number of things that we've presented at their symposium, and kind of show the connections between the two organizations. I gave a talk a year ago on sort of this open source and open science vision. So I gave an overview on that topic to the Active Inference Institute, and just discussing how those things fit together in these sorts of open source organizations. Some other topical talks, and then we hosted a talk last year on something called Neurodesk. This is an interest of Morgan's, and he invited Stefan Bollman, who works on this Neurodesk software. And it's basically this idea of reproducible science or reproducible research. And so the idea is to build like sort of a virtual machine that can allow people to execute software on a repeatable basis. Basically, if you always have the same type of environment, if you move from machine to machine or environment to environment, you should always be able to get the same result. And the software should always be able to run identically. And that's the idea behind Neurodesk. And so this is a nice talk to just get a sense of some of the issues in open science that we were interested in. And so that's the Active Inference Symposium playlist, and that kind of links to the Active Inference Institute, which if you're interested, I can give you more information about. But another organization, of course, we're affiliated with is OpenWorm. And this is, of course, OpenWorm is interested in building a computational model of the nematode C. elegans. But the idea is not just to build a model of it, the idea is to emulate it or simulate it at the cellular level, to try to create basically a digital twin of a nematode, so that we can do all sorts of things like, do computational experiments, engage in education, and simulate conditions under which this worm exists. So the reason why OpenWorm picks C. elegans is because it's a model organism in biology, and it's a great value to the scientific community. C. elegans has a lot of community around it. The C. elegans biological community, where they share a lot of data sets and they share a lot of information. So there's a lot of open data on C. elegans, from different types of defined mutations and their phenotypes, to cell data, to molecular data, to behavioral data. And so OpenWorm has been sort of in the middle of all of this. And so OpenWorm is an open source foundation. Their tagline is building the first digital life form, open source. And they have a lot of projects that are sort of going towards the aim that I mentioned. So the first one is this browser, which allows you to look at a 3D model of the nematode and explore it at different levels. So you have the nematode, which is the model here, and you have this 3D model where you can see like the muscle, and you can see the body wall, and you can see different neurons and their projections across the worm. So this, at the top here, is the connectome. This is the head of the worm, and the connectome, of course, goes down to the tail as well. And you can see that the entire connectome has not only been mapped out in terms of its cells, but in terms of this three-dimensional model. So this is a nice model that is actually quite dated, and it's been updated, but it's always, there are always opportunities to sort of update the presentation style of this. So this is, but of course the biology doesn't change that much. So this model is actually still pretty useful. But that's just one piece of the puzzle here. Some of the other pieces of the OpenWorm puzzle are these body simulators. So this is a biophysics simulator where we can take a worm body and we can move it through different media that the worm might encounter in nature. And so this is a worm body simulator that we can use to look at the physics of muscle and soft tissue. This is WormSim, which is another interactive tool to look at the different types, different activation signals you find in neurons, and then model that. Of course, we have C302, which is the thing that Utkarsh was working with in the application period, which is a means to model the connectome. Of course, there's DevoWorm, there's the OpenWorm browser, and there's the NeuroML connectome, which is another connectome tool. So OpenWorm is very focused on the connectome, and so I know a lot of people in the group are interested in looking at the connectome and looking at the connectome in development. So I just wanted to point out that there are a lot of associated software tools through OpenWorm that you might be interested in. And this, again, this is taking some of these tools and using them or repurposing them for different needs. And so this is something we can do so we don't have to reinvent the wheel all the time. Speaking of which, OpenWorm has its own repository, which is this OpenWorm repository. It's an organization level repository. And a lot of these projects that I just mentioned live here in these open source repositories. So, we have things like C302 or Geppetto, and some of these things are models or allow you to model like the connectome. Others are visualization tools, or in some cases like NeuroML tools. So not all of them are necessarily suitable for maybe what we might be interested in our group, but there are other tools like looking at ion channels. There's this project ChannelWorm 2. There's of course cybernetic. There's movement tracking, which has been another successful project that isn't featured on the website there, but it does have this sort of the software legacy that you can draw from. And there are other repositories in here which are kind of interesting in different states of completion, which is typical of open source. Sometimes we have to deal with that, but these are things that you can also draw from. There's a Docker file that we have for demos in OpenWorm, which is basically where you can download a Docker file, basically a containerized piece of software that will run all the simulations for you and give you an output as a sample. So it's like kind of running all of the simulations as kind of a sampler. So that's also available. That's less important for like simulating things or doing any hardcore emulation of the worm, but it's just kind of a demo for people. It's an educational tool. So that's kind of where we are with our organization. We have our home organization, and then we have our other organizations we're associated with. So we're affiliated with the Active Inference Institute. We're affiliated with OpenWorm. We're affiliated with JoPro, which I didn't talk about at all, but that's something Jesse will talk about over the course of the term. We're also involved in some of the things that Morgan is mentioning, and he has a whole other set of things he'll talk about over the course of the term as well. So that's kind of where we are. The reason I give that sort of introduction is because this is sort of our community, our extended community. So I want to make sure that people have sort of a reference point for what we're going to be talking about this summer. Okay, do we have any questions or comments about anything? Jesse or Morgan, did you want to?
There's things I can say. Oh, Morgan, why don't you go?
Oh no, I was just gonna, cover or say, there's a lot of resources. If anybody's ever got questions about things, reach out on Slack. And if there's nothing that we've talked about so far, that there are plenty more. Did you mention the Discord? Sorry.
I just kind of did this in passing. We do have,
Okay.
yeah. So
I don't know actually whether I should push the Slack or the Discord.
So we have a number of different communication channels, and it's pretty confusing, I think, for people. I'll say that, like, if you're interested in a certain area or a certain thing, there is probably an associated communication tool to use for that. So the only thing I'll stress here is that we have the GSoC channel in the Orthogonal Lab Slack, and then if you're in DevoWorm, you know about the DevoWorm Slack and the Open Room Slack and the DevoWorm channel. So those are the only two I'm going to think about right now. And then if you're interested in something more in depth, we can talk about that later. But I think that's just confusing. If you say you have this thing and this thing and this thing. So
we've also just recently started the new active inference textbook.
Yes.
It's like we're still on the very early chapters. If you are interested in covering that for this summer, and let's see, we've got a meeting today, actually, this afternoon. Sorry, Jess.
Oh yeah, just for new folks, all you really need to fuss about is basically the Google Summer of Code channel in Slack. Like, if you have questions, you can ask them there. But for yes, there's many. That's like the main thing you should be. Oh, what should I pay attention to? Is that channel, and then emails or direct messages, basically through Slack. Your main. What should I do if I want to be participating and I want to miss anything? That's all you need to focus on. But if you want extended stuff or other things, or talk to Morgan about this or Bradley about this project, there's a lot of other communications that are not necessarily present. So just to clarify that,
Yeah, so the way I'm going to structure this meeting going forward, I mean, this was kind of the first day of the year, but I'd like to have, updates from people. And then, if you're working on something, you can talk about it. If not, if you have ideas, it's fine. And then I want to kind of focus on, I know that Jess and Morgan they may have a more in-depth thing that they want to talk about. The years past, Jess has done a series of things over the course of the summer where he introduces different topics. Morgan will have things about the things that he's been involved with. And then I'll have a topic every week that I'll kind of get into at the end of the meeting. So usually it'll be a 10-minute thing where we kind of go through a different topic. Sometimes it's directly relevant to our organization. Sometimes it's something that's more kind of a general open source concept that you should be familiar with. So we've done a lot of things with licensing and thinking about sustainability of open source projects and things like that. And there's so much in open source that's very overwhelming to just think about. You're a lot of people okay, I want to do open source, so I want to contribute to this repository, and then I want to have my pull request accepted, and then that's it. And that's that's usually the way it goes. But a lot of times, if you get deeper into an open source community, or if you're working in open source, it benefits you to know kind of the way of the landscape, what things are happening kind of in the organization, or what kinds of things you can leverage to make sure that you have good, especially if you're starting your own open source project, to have a good advantage over other projects. I will say that one of the main topics right now in open source is the sort of the incursion of AI into that, where you'll have a repository and you'll have people issuing pull requests, and a lot of times you'll either have AI assisted pull requests or just AI bots that will send pull requests into the organization. And when you have an open source organization, you usually have people who are maybe it's a single maintainer who accepts the pull requests, or it's a small group of people in the organization that actually manage the project at the level of like looking at the code and knowing what's supposed to be there and things like that. So it's become overwhelming for a lot of organizations to deal with. And so that's just like one example of a topic that is something we can visit and revisit and talk about in more depth. Because I think that a lot of this stuff is very few opportunities to learn about these topics and to know kind of to have a good footing on what that means for sort of the enterprise of open source.
Yeah, I would second that in the sense of like, to put this very plainly to folks, like the advent of AI everywhere is presenting new challenges for various fields and domains, and open source is one of them. And all of these domains have had existing challenges before LLMs and AI were everywhere. So I would implore you as a young person in the field or an early career researcher or getting whatever, as you're starting out, try to really dive into, in many ways, I think historical background of fields and domains and problem spaces is like even more important now, because it's going to be so easy to not know about it and just be like, oh, well, AI and LLM says this and this is how it's affecting this, but like the problems that existed before AI aren't going away. And in many ways, many solutions have been optimized in problem spaces that are now challenged by the advent of AI. So we have to kind of figure out what to do about it. So open source sustainability, reproducibility, how do we have people verifying and evaluating pull requests and software development? Like, so really try to just have a learner's mindset of like, oh, I need to understand kind of what's going on, and not just how can I use AI to do the thing do the obvious metric faster. Like it would benefit you, and I would say I'll take the soapbox stance of it would benefit society and people developing technology in the future to really try to understand those things as best you can. And this is a great place to have to learn about that, to get mentorship and to talk about the ins and outs of all that stuff.
Okay. Well, that's great. Thank you, Jesse. I don't know if we had any other comments before we go. We usually keep this meeting to an hour. So do you have anything else?
I will encourage folks, like, if you think of something like, geez, we'll talk about things like project management or licensing. If there is a topic of interest to you, think about it during the week, or like in some conversation with a classmate or something you're reading. It can be a current topic or just a functional, pragmatic thing. Please mention it. Please put something in the Slack and say, hey, I'm thinking about this, because that way we can talk about it now. So sometimes folks are like, oh, I don't know if I want to post anything. I don't know. People don't use Slack. Like, I'm going to overly encourage you to use the Slack channel and post things so we can talk about it that are on your mind, because it's a great time to do it. So please don't be shy that way. And we can tailor specific things around you. We've done that in the past, and then we'll kind of incorporate it into our broader programming as we go forward. So yeah, that's my little remark. Well, for this, I would say be active in the Slack, Orthogonal Slack. I'm also occasionally active in the other one, but like both of them are solid to be active in, and I'm in them, and so is Bradley and Morgan. That's my comment.
Yeah.
But yeah, good to see everybody today.
Yep. Good to see everyone. Thank you for attending. And if you have any questions, let us know. If you have any concerns or anything, let us know. And see you next week. Thank you.
Hey, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.